He was 68, tough as nails, and never missed a morning walk until the day his legs gave out in the garage and he woke up in a hospital bed with no diagnosis, no answers, and no idea what was really killing him. The truth? It had nothing to do with age and everything to do with a silent habit most men over 60 abandon without realizing it's the reason they start dying slowly. If you're a man over 50, you need to hear this. Frank was a man built out of fire, 68 years old, a retired fire captain from Buffalo, the kind of guy who'd rush into a burning building without blinking but wouldn't talk about feelings if you paid him. One crisp autumn morning, he was in his garage changing a spark plug on his old '72 Ford when something strange happened. His legs buckled, and he went down hard, dizzy and breathless. His wife was gone 6 years now, his kids grown and scattered, and he hadn't seen a doctor in months. But now, here he was on the cold concrete floor, staring at the ceiling like it might offer answers. Said his heart was fine, blood work was normal. No stroke, no heart attack, no diabetes, just exhaustion and age. But deep down, Frank knew this wasn't just age, it was something else. Something hollow he'd been carrying around like a backpack full of bricks. And the weight of it had finally pulled him to the ground. They ran every test they could, but everything came back fine on paper. Frank was just another aging guy dealing with natural wear and tear, but Frank knew that wasn't it. Something was wrong, something nobody could measure with blood pressure cuffs or heart monitors. He had no energy. His brain felt like it was wrapped in cotton. He wasn't sad, exactly, but nothing made him happy either. It was like color had drained from the world. He wasn't sick, but he wasn't alive either. What nobody saw, and what Frank couldn't say out loud, was that he'd stopped caring about himself the way he used to. Not just grooming and walking. He'd stopped touching his own body. Stopped connecting. That fire, that spark, that desire. To feel something real that was gone. And the scariest part? He hadn't even noticed it slipping away. It just faded like an old photograph left too long in the sun. One night, feeling restless and numb, Frank was digging through his desk drawers when he stumbled across a beat-up old journal he hadn't opened in decades. He flipped through the pages, yellowed and cracked, and there it was, his own handwriting from 30 years ago, scrawled like lightning across the paper. He read about things he'd forgotten, the feeling of being wanted, of wanting, the thrill of intimacy, and the quiet, private moments that once made him feel alive. Those pages were full of raw, honest reflections on what it meant to be a man, not just tough and capable, but vulnerable, curious, and connected. It hit him like a punch to the gut. Somewhere along the line, he'd buried that man. Not because he had to, but because no one ever told him he could keep him. Society didn't talk about men over 60 having needs, let alone touching themselves. He felt foolish reading it, but also awake, like someone had cracked a window in a room that hadn't been aired out in years. The next morning, Frank kept his appointment with Dr. Grace, a sharp, no-nonsense woman who never sugarcoated a thing. She asked him routine questions about diet, sleep, exercise. Then, right when he thought the exam was over, she leaned in and asked, "Frank, when's the last time you felt connected to your body?" He blinked, unsure what she meant. Then she got bolder. I mean, really connected, intimately, sexually. The air went out of the room. He was ready to bolt, ashamed, furious, but she didn't flinch. She told him flat out, men who stay sexually connected, even solo, stay younger longer. It wasn't about lust, it was biology. Testosterone, blood flow, brain chemicals. She said, it like it was the same as brushing your teeth. And maybe that's what stunned him most, how ordinary she made it sound. It's not dirty, Frank, she said. It's maintenance. And for the first time in his life, Frank heard that truth without shame in the room. But shame doesn't go away overnight. Frank remembered what his father told him as a boy: real men don't touch themselves. His church called it sin. His friends made jokes like they were too manly for that kind of thing. And after his wife died, it just felt wrong, pointless, even weak. Ads on TV showed happy couples in their 30s, but not a single man his age talking about desire or touch or feeling human. Doctors never asked. Nobody said a word. So he did what a lot of men do: he gave up, quietly, without even noticing. And what he gave up wasn't just a part of his body, it was a part of his spirit. That silence, that slow erosion of self, was what had taken the color out of his life. The fire captain had retired, but so had the man who once felt joy and spark and connection. And he didn't even know it had happened. Frank tried one night, alone in his room with the lights low and the window cracked open to the cool night air. At first it felt awkward, ridiculous, even like he was impersonating a younger version of himself. His hands felt foreign. His body didn't respond the way it used to. He almost stopped. But then he remembered what Dr. Grace said. You're not trying to perform, you're trying to reconnect. So he closed his eyes and just breathed. He let his hands explore, not with pressure, but with permission. Not like chasing something, but like listening to something, and something changed. Not immediately, not dramatically, but quietly. A spark. A flicker, like finding a coal that's still hot under the ash. And he held on to that, because it meant something was still alive. In there, waiting. 2 weeks later, Frank caught himself laughing, really laughing at a stupid joke in the morning paper. He'd been sleeping better, thinking clearer. Even his posture was better. He didn't feel like a young man again, but he didn't feel like a dying one either. There was warmth in his chest that hadn't been there in years. He looked people in the eye again. He flirted with the waitress at the diner. It wasn't about sex. It was about spark. About being in his skin and not feeling like a ghost. That's what self-connection had given him. Not fireworks, but a furnace, steady heat, quiet power. And that made every day feel worth waking up. For his son noticed first. Dad, you okay? He asked over coffee one morning. You've got that old spark again. Frank shrugged and said he'd just been getting more rest, cutting back on the caffeine. But inside, he knew the truth. He wasn't medicating himself. He wasn't numbing out in front of the TV. He wasn't looking for outside fixes. He had started doing something for himself that wasn't about anyone else's judgment, and it was working. His body was responding. His spirit was coming back online. And he didn't need to explain it, because he could feel it every time he walked into a room. He was back in it, fully. Finally, later that month, Frank dug into the research. Harvard, Stanford, the University of Finland. Every source he found said the same thing. Men over 60 who stay sexually active, even through self-pleasure, have lower risks of heart disease, better brain function, stronger bones, fewer prostate issues, and better mental health. One study even showed that men who ejaculated 21 times a month reduced their prostate cancer risk by a third. It wasn't snake oil. It wasn't wishful thinking. It was science. And yet no one was talking about it. No commercials. No pamphlets at the clinic. No men's health segment on the morning news. Just silence. Dangerous, aging silence. Frank isn't special. He's not trying to be a guru or a health nut. He's just a man who found out almost too late that you don't have to shrivel up. Just because you're over 60, you don't have to fade into a recliner and die watching game shows. You can live. You can touch. You can feel. You can claim the right to stay connected to your own body. Because the truth is, this isn't about lust. It's about life. It's about reclaiming the man inside the man. And if you're hearing this right now, maybe it's your turn. Maybe you've felt that slow fading, that shame, that silence. Maybe no one ever told you it was okay. So let Frank be the one to say it. It's not too late. Your body is still yours. And you're still in there. Don't let the world tell you that part of you expired at 50. That's a lie. The truth is, the best fire burns slow, and it never really dies unless you let it.